Right, well, I'd like to welcome you all here today. It's a fantastic turnout. We're very pleased about that. Thanks for coming. Thanks for giving up your time. Hope it'll be valuable time for you. And we're really excited about this opportunity with our Infrastructure Plus project. Just a tiny little bit of housekeeping. The toilets are on the far side of the stairs there, and there is a water machine there because we're blessed with lovely weather at the moment, and it can get a bit oppressive, so there's drinks out there if you want them. I'm just going to give a really kind of quick brief introduction. I'm really pleased that we've got the opportunity to start this day in this building, because this is the seat of power of the County Council. It represents our service to the community. You know, all the public representatives come here. It's where all the important decisions are made, and it's useful for us to remember that's what we're about here. We are about serving the public. And we'll do some presentations later. You'll hear from the Deputy Leader, Ian Parry, and he's going to talk to you about Staffordshire and the vision for Staffordshire and how we work for the communities. Helen Riley, who is the Director for Place and Deputy Chief Exec, is going to talk about the way the council works and the council's visions for working in the future. And then Mark Winnington, who's the portfolio holder for economy, is going to talk about the overall project and why it's important to us. And then James Bailey, the Commissioner for Highways in the Built County, is going to say a bit more about what we're specifically trying to achieve. And then I'm going to finish off with a little bit about the procurement process. We'll have a break after that, and then we'll move over to Staffordshire Place. And that's quite in contrast to this building. It's modern, but it kind of personifies, if you like, the way that we do business now. We know what we need to do to achieve what we want to achieve, and we go about it in a professional and a sensible way, showing that it's the right thing to do and it's the way to save money, but also to give good public services. So we'll do that after the break, and the coffee break will be about 11 o'clock. So I'll hand you over now to Ian Parry, the Deputy Leader, for the first presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I have to stand here. Firstly, if I sit on my normal bench, I want to growl political arguments to people on this side of the chamber, which would be my normal default, if you like, when I'm standing in this room. But welcome indeed to Staffordshire. And I must also congratulate Ian on a very astute career move there and leaving his boss out of the list of people who are speaking this morning. But Helen isn't apparently going to follow me, but never mind. Well done. It doesn't matter. We're just musing on it. So welcome to Staffordshire. This is a place of innovation that goes back centuries, if you like. In this chamber, we have 4 murals in each corner, which represent, if you like, the cornerstones of the original industries of Staffordshire. We've got steel, we've got coal, we've got ceramics, and we've got agriculture. Sadly, some of those industries have declined over those years, but most of them are still very much present in our economy within Staffordshire. And of course, moving to today, we've got some of the leading edge companies in the UK, in fact, world-beating companies that are located here in Staffordshire. Names such as JCB, Alstom, soon to be Jaguar Land Rover in the south of the county, Caterpillar, plus a number of very successful companies in aerospace, defence and other high-tech industries. So this is an area of significant economic capacity and growth. We were awarded last year the place with the highest inward investment of anywhere in the UK, which was a tremendous achievement. And we've managed to gain new investment from organisations such as Amazon, and as I already mentioned, Jaguar Land Rover. So this is a place of real economic activity and growth. We're also the only place uniquely with 2 theme parks. So if you want a white knuckle ride, this is the place to be. We're a rural county. We comprise of vast rural areas. We've got a an ancient royal forest based in the centre of the county, and in the north we have a national park, the Peak National Park, which also partly is in Staffordshire, plus many triple SIs and very beautiful countryside. And then lots of lovely market towns and... you moved me on, I'm so sorry, I should have done that. Market towns, the city of Lichfield, the birthplace of Johnson, tremendous impact on our language and culture, and also other famous names that come from this county, such as Wedgwood and Robert Peel and all sorts of other fascinating names. This is also the home of the Kingdom of Mercia. The town of Tamworth was, of course, the location for the royal palace for the Kingdom of Mercia, and this is the place where that famous Staffordshire gold was found, the largest treasure trove of Saxon gold ever found. So we're steeped in history, steeped in culture, and today is a fantastic powerhouse of enterprise, energy and industry. In terms of our relationship with our communities, obviously as an organisation, we want to do the right thing. And at the top of our agenda is prosperity, economic growth, jobs. Because we feel, and we don't make any excuse for that, we don't make any apology for putting prosperity at the top of our agenda. That isn't that we want to make people millionaires, that's the lottery's job. What we do is we believe in prosperity as a means to ensure that the social, economic aspects of our county are, if you like, have the best opportunities. So prosperity drives out lots of social disadvantage. If we can increase the prosperity of our county, we can provide better jobs for people, we can ensure that families have money in their pockets, have a job to go to, that families feel more united, and that we can address many of the social issues that we have in our county. And development is very much important to local government these days. Part of our income stream has to be derived from business rates these days, and that's why prosperity is very much high on our agenda. As an organisation, we like to consider ourselves member-led. We like to say that once we're committed to something, we are committed. We like to have minimal interference and maximum support. We like to think of ourselves as risk takers, as innovators, and that's really important for us. The old model of local government just doesn't work anymore. We need to be innovative. We need to address the old model of local government and re-provide services in a way that fits how people live their lives today and fits the public purse's requirements as well. So much of what we do, we believe, is game-changing. Much of what we do have been actually national firsts in local government. The things that we've been doing have been innovative, and they've taken a significant but managed measure of risk, and we're prepared to do that. We're prepared to be different, we're prepared to be first, and we're prepared to put ourselves in the forefront of change. We always believe that we're not a cuts and closures council. I mean, this age of austerity has meant that local government has taken the biggest reduction in its income throughout the public sector. For lots of local authorities who bury their heads in their hands, it's become a culture of cuts and closures, of how else can we do it except to cut something or to close something. Here in Staffordshire, we believe not to close things and not to cut things, but to do things differently. It's a fundamental different mindset, we believe, to what local government used to be about. And that is addressing what outcomes we're looking for our residents, our citizens, seeing how we can redesign, if you like, those services and then re-provide them in a different way that makes them fit for purpose, that makes them suitable for the user, but doesn't have all the costs and implication that they may have traditionally had. They can be done in a different way, provided by a different provider. And we've managed over the last 4 years to shave 130, 140 million pounds from our budgets. We've downsize the organisation corporately significantly without making the big redundancy announcements that other authorities have done. So we've done things significantly different. And that's the challenge that we have moving forward as well. That hasn't gone away and is likely to stay with us at least until 2018. And I think that's where economic forecasters see a change in our fortunes. So what matters most to our residents? Well, there are some very high expectations, particularly in educational attainment. That fits with our prosperity agenda. We need high educational attainment. We need to boost skill attainment to ensure that our economy has the right fit with people coming into employment. And providing care for people who need us most is crucial. It's part of our core values that we provide support for the people who need us most. But in local government terms, that means that we've got major challenges, demographic challenges, an aging population, more people requiring support and help in later years, more children sadly coming into the care system through changes in social circumstances. There are great pressures, financial pressures on this authority, and things which we've actually worked very hard to improve and to ensure that we provide the right level of service for the people who need us most, whilst ensuring that we can afford all the things that we need to do. And crucially to our residents, the thing that is probably most visible and prominent to them is black tarmac. That's the thing that they all see, because that's the thing they all drive on as they're going to work or going to school or wherever. That's the thing that we have most feedback on, I suspect, from residents. And expectations always outstrip capacity. The expectations of our residents is often that they expect our country lanes to look like the Autobahn rather than the country lane. And that really, in terms of financial pressure, is quite significant. But nevertheless, what we've got to do is to manage and balance those expectations of our residents with what we have in terms of resource and capacity to deliver. So it's about prioritizing, but it's also about understanding how we can work with residents and communities to get their level of expectation matched to what is reasonable and what is affordable. That's quite a big challenge moving forward, and that's part of the ask, I suspect, of today. That is, how can we work to ensure that resident satisfaction and the way we work with residents is met. And for us, that's part of what makes a good place to live, what makes Staffordshire a good place to live. And here we see a set of headlines, if you like, that from resident surveys that we conduct on a regular basis, of what are they telling us about what makes their community and their county a good place to live, a good place to bring up their children, a good place to settle, a good place to retire, a place where they can enjoy living, a quality of life. And clearly it's about, low crime levels, and we have extremely low crime levels here in Staffordshire, good quality schools, good access to health services, and a clean and beautified county as much as we can get it. Naturally, Staffordshire is a beautiful place, and we want to make our communities nice places to live in. So this isn't just about roads and highways. This is about actually nice communities, places where people can have pride and enjoy living there. So in terms of the future, clearly things like having the right connections, and here we are, bang slap really in the middle of the country. We've got tremendous connectivity, within 45 minutes, 1 hour of 3 international airports, good rail connections, 1 hour, 20 minutes from this town to London. Although you wouldn't want to go to London a day like this, I can tell you, I'm sure. Sticky place. Good connectivity with our road network, M6, 850, M6 toll, excellent connectivity, good links to major cities, etc. and Staffordshire is a place that enjoys relatively low levels of congestion, so we're quite fortunate in many respects. We also need to work closely with our partners. I mean, here in the Staffordshire County, there's something like £7.5 billion worth of public expenditure, and we as a county have responsibility for about £1 billion of that. But there is a wider network of partners that we need to work with, and we do work with, to ensure that we get maximum value for every pound of public money spent. Transparency as an organisation like this is a given, and that's how modern organisations of public service should work, and we are very committed to openness and transparency, both internally amongst sharing with employees. Well, I think we're a relaxed organisation managerially, although we are manic about the energy and pace that we put into our change agendas. And as the upper tier authority, we see ourselves as the champion within the county, that the organisation that has to show leadership. We're the largest democratic body in the county, and we're one of the largest employers in the county. We're one of the largest organisations in the county. We have wide influence in all sorts of spheres, both at national level and local level. And we have to bring all that together and make sure that we serve people correctly and make sure that we lead, particularly in difficult times like this, that we show leadership in the county and make sure that we provide the services at the right cost. So all this is part of a major change agenda, of which we've been on a significant journey over the last 4 years since we as a political party came into control in Staffordshire. And we've, I believe, achieved quite a number of step changes within this county in terms of things like health integration, which was the first in the county, putting together a new education support service joint venture company, putting together things like an integrated support centre for people with problems in terms of abuse, etc. So we've joined up services and organisations to ensure that that's done. Pretty much first in the country to do that sort of thing, linked with our Families First agenda, which pushes more support, wraparound support to families and early intervention. But moving forward, the things we need to do is to, particularly with an area like this, is put customers at the heart of the service, to understand what it is they're expecting, to try not to surprise them, disappoint them, make them think that we don't know what we're doing, make them realise that actually we're doing the best for them and we're doing it efficiently and effectively. So the getting it right first time thing is not an option. We have to make sure that we don't go back and repair things 2 or 3 times and people think we should have done it right the first time. And we have to make sure that when we're doing things, we communicate them to our customers to ensure that they understand what it is we're doing, what it is we're trying to achieve, and we understand that we are creating some discomfort or some inconvenience, but it's done for a purpose. It's done either to create jobs or to make the county a better place to live. And that's all based on listening. We listen, we survey, we talk to our residents. We as elected members are obviously in regular contact, if not constant contact, with our residents, understanding what it is they want, but noting also that we can't give everybody everything they want. We have to provide everything that the society requires. And finally, to ensure that they have a say in all of this. I mean, our elected members are closely involved in the development of local plans, particularly around transport, etc., and social care. Local members do have that connectivity with communities, with their electorate, and it's important that we use all of those mechanisms to ensure that we are shaping services that do meet the outcomes of local residents and people. So generally speaking, I think we are in a good place. Despite all the economic gloom, the downsizing once more of local government with an announcement that we're going to get 10% less, we have to do more with less. And we've proven, I think, here in Staffordshire, that we're a county council that means that we can deliver more for less. We have the lowest council tax anywhere in the UK as a county council. We've frozen council tax like lots have done over 4 years. So we've really achieved a great deal. So I welcome you here to Staffordshire this morning, to the centre of the country, to this beautiful county on a lovely morning like this. We're not used to it. We're used to the frozen wastelands of the north, of course, being north of the Trent. But we welcome the summer. We welcome you all to Staffordshire. So I'll hand over now to Helen Riley.
Well, good morning, everyone. And I'm also very delighted to welcome you to this very, very beautiful county on a very, very beautiful morning in a very, very beautiful building, if not slightly warm. But it's an ancient building, and we'll do our best to try and cool off as we go through the morning. I've got the dry bit, I'm afraid. So I'm going to talk to you about how the council works, which is about commissioning, our approach to that, and I'll try and make it lively and real for you. But before we start, just to pick up on a few points that Ian made. I've worked at several councils in my career, as you can probably tell by looking at the age of me. And I have to say this is a fabulous place to be. It is a fabulous county council in a fabulous part of the country. We are innovative, we are risk-taking, but absolutely focused on improving the quality of life for our residents. And there's a real buzz about this place. I visit lots of councils, lots of organisations as part of my job, and there isn't a huge amount of optimism around at the moment. There really is in Staffordshire, and there really is in the county council, and you can feel it. And it is a great place to work, and it is a great organisation to work with. So, commissioning, bit of a buzzword at the moment in the public sector. And to be really clear at the start of this, commissioning for Staffordshire County Council is not procurement. Procurement is part of it, but commissioning to us is a whole system approach to how we deliver the key outcomes that improve the benefits that our residents and the businesses in Staffordshire deserve. So commissioning by the County Council is about achieving positive outcomes through the best use of resources to meet our needs of residents, communities and service users in Staffordshire. That's the vision for the council that we're all working to. And as Ian said, we've been on a journey and we're getting much better at this, and we want to be excellent. We have a national reputation for innovation. We have a growing reputation both locally, regionally and nationally for the way we approach commissioning, but we know we've got, everybody can improve and we need to get better at it. So the benefits of commissioning. We are outcome focused, and hopefully you will have picked that up through the documentation that you have seen so far as part of this process. In order to make those strategic decisions around what are the key outcomes we want to deliver, we use clear evidence and insight. The knowledge of our customers has improved hugely over the last 3 years, so everything we do is evidence-based. And that means we've moved away from doing things that we've always done, because we've always done them like that, in that way, to absolutely trying to think innovatively around the solutions we need to introduce. And because we have that evidence base, and because our members at every level are involved in that process, our decisions are transparent. And they're absolutely shaped bottom up and top down by the needs of our customers, our future customers and service users. But, as Ian mentioned, Staffordshire County Council is only part of the picture locally, and there is about £7.5 billion worth of public sector spend in Staffordshire. And when we talk about outcomes rather than service delivery, we recognise that actually we don't do that on our own, and that we achieve that with a huge number of partners that we work with, be that public partners, be that private sector partners, be that community and voluntary sector partners, or actually be it communities themselves who we're working increasingly with. So for us, our success in commissioning depends absolutely on having those really great partnerships, and through those partnerships demonstrating effective leadership. And our outcomes, which I'm going to talk about in a minute or two, are not just outcomes that the County Council are working towards. Our outcomes have been explored, tested, shared and agreed by all the partners that we work with locally through our local strategic partnership, and then through our local enterprise board and our health and wellbeing board. So in Staffordshire, public sector and other partners moving increasingly towards directing their resources, their efforts, to achieving the same things. And that's quite a step forward, I think, for the public sector generally. So if we have those very high-level partnerships that I've talked about, the LEP and the Health and Wellbeing Board, setting that real clear strategic direction around what we want to achieve, we're conscious that when that's translated in a county as big as Staffordshire, actually solutions can look very different. So if one of our outcomes is about Staffordshire being a safer place, for example, and we talked about an issue of antisocial behaviour, how that demonstrates itself in a small rural village in the south of Staffordshire is actually very different from Tamworth town centre, on a Friday and Saturday night. So we need different answers to the problems that we're trying to solve. And we have 8 senior officers across the council, one for each of our district areas, called district commissioning leads, who work locally with local members, with local groups such as parish councils and other voluntary groups, and local communities to design the answers to those problems to help us to achieve our outcomes. And together with partners locally, look to commission a solution that will resolve that. Sometimes those issues are really, really small, or kind of sitting here in Stafford, we think, well, that's really quite insignificant. But actually locally, small things make a huge difference. So things like tidy, clean streets, things like hedge cutting, tree cutting, may seem quite insignificant to me, but actually to somebody locally it can make a huge difference. So we're working very, very closely with local communities to deliver the things that really matter to them to improve their quality of life. This beautiful diagram is our commissioning cycle. And as ever with the public sector, it's illogical because it goes anti-clockwise. So one of the few processes, I think, which goes that way. And it is largely sequential, but parts of the process dip in at different times. I'm going to talk you through our commissioning tree. And hopefully, from what you've seen so far in the documentation, you will recognise the kind of process that we're following and that today is part of. So we always start with, what's the question? And that's been actually, over the years, quite a tricky one to answer. But basically, what that's trying to say is, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? Why are we here? Is there a gap that we need to fill? And what is the future demand that we really need to meet? But in trying to ask those questions, we absolutely have to bring in stage 2, which is about knowing your customers. So that is where the evidence base kicks in. That is all about using any kind of insight that we've got around our customers' needs to influence being able to answer those key questions. So that's customer insight, it's the work we do with communities around engagement, it's key performance indicators, so we know if we've got a problem in a certain area. And when we've considered all that evidence and we think we know the question that we need to answer, then we think about, okay, if this is the question, what actually ultimately then will we achieve? And that's where our outcomes kick in at stage 3. So what then do we have to deliver to make the difference that we want to make? And what will it look and feel like if we get there? Once we know that, and I think you'll have seen some of the outcomes included in the documentation you've had, well then, what's the best way to deliver it at stage 4? Is it what we've always done? Actually, do we need to redesign? Do we need to do things completely different? Is there any innovation here that we can achieve? Do we need to stop doing things? And how do we do that achieves the best value for money for the taxpayers of Staffordshire? So once we've got our plan around what it is that we want to deliver, we move on to stage 5. How will you get there? And that is around what delivery arrangements do we need? What is the best approach to delivering the change that we want to see happen? That could be as an organisation, with partners, and how do we drive value for money and efficiency through that process? And what then is the best way to procure the solution that we need? And obviously we're part of that process here today. Once we think we've got the right arrangements, the right partners, we're clear on what we're trying to achieve, what is it that we need to measure at number 6? What KPIs do we need? How will contract management work? And increasingly important for us as part of this process is the customer experience. How does it feel and look for the customer? What is their perception of the services that are delivered and the impact that we are making? And how do we keep improving that and driving value for money constantly? That knowledge then feeds straight back into what's the question. So once we've done proper performance management, have we solved the problem that we said? Have we filled the gap that we said we wanted to fill? Have we met future demand? If not, what does the insight tell us that we need to do in the future? And that, in a very quick canter, is the Council's approach to commissioning. So whole system, outcome-focused, evidence-based. So just to reiterate, decisions based on insight, outcome-driven, whole system, democracy, local members, cabinet, scrutiny at every stage of the process, understanding our leadership role, understanding resources and assets available to us, and employees and crucially partners understand what we are trying to achieve and their role in that. As part of moving towards an excellent commissioning organisation and following the election in May, the Council's reviewed its vision, values, behaviours and outcomes, and I'm going to romp through those for you now because this absolutely influences the way we approach our commissioning framework. So these will underpin everything that we do as a county council and will inform how we work together across the council and with partners and communities. And there will be, boringly for some, but very interesting for me, a new business planning framework in the council, which will be far more based on commissioning strategies, a performance culture around commissioning strategies, and will inform all that we do in performance management in partnership. So, our new vision builds on the visions that we've had previously, and this is a vision for the County Council and Staffordshire, is a connected Staffordshire. And Ian already touched on our position in the country, our connectivity, but much broader than that, connection with residents, connecting communities together, connecting service users to the services that they need. So a connected Staffordshire where everyone has the opportunity to prosper, be healthy and happy. And our values, and this is really, really important to us because not only will we be looking for this to influence the way we do things around here as a county council, but these absolutely have to be shared by our partners and the people that we work with. So putting the people of Staffordshire first, valuing each other, picking up on Ian's innovation point, embracing doing things differently and taking risks, and doing the right thing for the communities and people of this great county. What we're asking of our staff and what we're asking of our partners and all those that we work with is that we share behaviours, that we're articulate and we communicate compellingly with our customers, our service users and the people of the county, that we have real ambition to seek out improvement and innovation in everything that we do, that we are perceptive and wise, that we understand the wider perspective of everything that we do, we understand the impact of the decisions that we make, and that we're absolutely strategic as the upper tier authority to drive for performance and results. That we leading ourselves as a county council and Staffordshire PLC, but we do that with integrity and insightful thinking. And if we get that right, and we get our commissioning approach right, we hope to achieve the following 3 outcomes over the next 4 years. That the people of Staffordshire will be able to access more good jobs and feel the benefits of economic growth, that they will be healthier and more independent, and that they feel safer, happier and supported in and by their community. Now, I'm conscious that these outcomes are different from those outcomes that were included in the documentation that you've seen. But what these outcomes do is roll those outcomes. We had 9 for the last 4 years. We now have 3. We've joined them together. We've made them simpler and more straightforward. So happier and more supported in and by their community is around that community involvement that will have been referred to. And that also covers access to cultural leisure activities, where people feel happy and they have a fulfilling life. And the other two, I think, are fairly self-explanatory. So that was a very, very quick canter through probably 3 years of work at the County Council around our approach to commissioning. It is a great place. It is a great organisation to work with. I'm delighted so many of you are here today. I hope you have a really enjoyable day and that we'll be seeing you in the future. Thank you. So I'm now going to hand it over to Councillor Mark Winnington, who's our Cabinet Member for Economy and Infrastructure, to talk a little bit, I think, around the economy of Staffordshire.
Right, good morning everybody. I'll start with putting my water over there because the first thing I did was tip water over everyone. Well, I say everyone, Helen and myself, so that's nearly everyone. Right, I don't know whether you can see the slide. I did think possibly the best thing I could do was just say, look, what a fantastic place, and finish. And then you'd all be happy, you wouldn't have to listen to a boring old councillor. And that was that. But Helen assures me I've got to do the presentation, so there we are. This morning, just as a bit of background, I'm the Cabinet Member for Economy and Infrastructure, but at the same time, I'm a farmer. The farm's coming second at the moment. I've been assured by my parents I need to sort of do a bit more work at home, but there you go. So this morning, I woke up at 6 o'clock, and I thought, oh, it's morning, and I had 3 thoughts. The first one was the sun shining again. Now, as a farmer, we spent all of last year looking out the window and it was raining. The crops were horrible. It was an awful year. So that was my first thought. The second thought was, what's that noise? And it's, damn, sheep are out again. That was my second thought. And then when I woke up properly, my third thought was, it's Bidders Day. Now, we've been working towards this for the last 12 months. We started off with place delivery models and Infrastructure Plus, and it got really complicated. So it's now Infrastructure Plus, and I think there's a move to call it I Plus, and it's really, really exciting for the county. We've done things like this with education, with health. We are a forwards-looking, innovative administration. I'm really proud to be part of it. We've got Philip Atkins, the leader. We've got Ian as deputy. We've got a great team, and whoever is successful in being our partner, you'll see what a fantastic place Staffordshire is, not just to live, not just to work, but to be a part of. And very quickly, again, before I start my presentation, talking to employers, and talking to one too this morning, one of our biggest selling points is Staffordshire itself. It's always been a bit like Uganda, the hidden gem in the middle of the country. We've got Alton Towers, we've got south of the county, we've got Straighton Manor, we've got Cannock Chase, we've got some fantastic leisure offers, and employers more and more are coming to me and saying, we can't get the staff because they want somewhere nice to come. And then we show them Staffordshire, and they come. And it's modern living for the higher echelons of staff. It's not just about the pay, it's about quality of life. And we at Staffordshire are providing that quality of life. And that is actually one of those hidden things that people really love. The picture in the top left-hand corner of the cows, we've got county farms. I asked for cows in. We've got to have cows in the presentation. No, this is not a proper presentation. Right. Let's start with the important stuff. The financial position. We're a local authority, and as you're all obviously aware, increasing pressure from central government. They've cut our grants again by 10% this time. But as Helen quite rightly said, within Staffordshire, the public purse spends £7.5 billion. And we as a county council are directly responsible for 1.3 billion of those £7.5 billion. 17% of the total spend sits with Staffordshire County Council. We've managed to ride a lot of the financial pressures, and the way we've done it is through partnership. We've delivered the largest and probably the first, or one of the first, integrations of health and social care at Staffordshire, to the point now where in the last spending review announced a couple of weeks ago, the government is saying people should integrate health and social care, and they're following what we've done at Staffordshire. And from day one we've said we're going to do things differently, we're going to do things right, and we're going to make sure that we look after the people of Staffordshire. £19 million was achieved for the county through Entrust, the work we've done with Capita. But more importantly, we know that Entrust will provide a great service for education, not just for Staffordshire, but when it's rolled out for parts of the rest of the country, or even the rest of the country. You guys could be a part of that in a different way. I-54. I don't know whether many of you will know about it. It's a business park. It's in the south of the county. We've worked with Wolverhampton Council, with South Staffs. We've actually ourselves constructed, or in the process of constructing, access onto the M54. That's working, and we haven't just through that achieved national recognition. It's global because we've got Tata. The choice of places to put the engine plant wasn't just about Staffordshire, it's which country should we put it in. So if you stick with us, you're in a good place. We're in the process, and Philip's done an awful lot about this, working with Stoke-on-Trent City Council through the city deal to create up to 29,000 jobs. It's dropped a little bit. It was 30,000 last time I looked at it, but I think we've probably provided 1,000 of those already. So, great. As we've mentioned already, we're not in this process to be looking at services. We're looking at outcomes. We've left it that way so that it's open for you guys to come up and say, you've got outcomes. This is what we think we can give you to help towards those outcomes. We don't want someone that's going to do the work for us. We don't want someone who's going to be told what to do. We want a partner. And that's what it's about. It's partnership, it's connectivity. That's what Staffordshire's really, really about. We've done work around the services already, as it says there. We use a lot of volunteers. The volunteers within Staffordshire are fantastic. I don't know why some people do it. They put more hours in once they've retired working than they did when they were working. All for free, all to help the communities, at the same time getting some benefits themselves in terms of health and well-being. We need to make sure that under financial pressures we deliver. This is what this procurement process is about. It's finding a partner who will help us to deliver our aims and at the same time deliver your aims going along with it. As Ian quite rightly said, one of our main outcomes at Staffordshire County Council is prosperity. It's quite simple. If we can get people within Staffordshire in jobs, in good jobs with good pay, they'll look after themselves. And then the county council can take what's left, the money that we're getting in, and give that to the process of supporting vulnerable people. That's what we're about. We're about making sure that people can look after themselves, take personal responsibility, have a fantastic life, healthy life in a great environment, and look after the vulnerable in our society. And that's really what we're about as councillors. It all sounds pretty naff when you're elected and people say, why did you get elected? To help people. And we're here to help people. And again, we'd like you guys to come along with us on that. We've spent the last 4 years supporting business growth, and it's already starting to pay off. Yesterday's headlines around the JSA showed a reduction in claimants of 5.3%. That actually builds on a yearly reduction of 11.3% in Staffordshire. We are bucking the trend in terms of the country. More people are being employed. The reason being we are actually encouraging and attracting more business into Staffordshire. To do that, we need to make sure the infrastructure is right. And that's not just roads, it's not just tarmac, it's not just potholes. And I did fall out at one of the scrutiny meetings because the opposition were witching on about potholes. And it's about the whole of Staffordshire. As Helen said, it's about being a great place to live. Make sure your hedges are cut, make sure that the pavements are clean. Working with all our partners. We've had 200 jobs at Alstom recently. JCB have started a new plant at Newcastle, another 300 jobs. Clarius in the north of the county, in the Moorlands, 60 jobs. Staffordshire's moving forwards. We've got a pilot with the LEP for skills. So central government is actually acknowledging the fact that Staffordshire is moving. In terms of being a connected county, I won't go on about being in the middle of the country. We know we're in the middle of the country. We know we've got the M6, all of that. Great. How do we want to improve it? And there are those bullet points. And I will read them out because they're important. Continue to attract new business. Help existing businesses. Ensure quality of access. Encourage sustainable transport and travel. Maintain our road safety record. We've got one of the best road safety records in the country. We're very proud of it. It's not a new thing. We've been year on year the best in the UK. Fantastic. We're really pleased with that. Customer satisfaction, as Ian quite rightly said, me as a councillor, Ian as a councillor, it's important that the guys out there who pay the taxes know when, for using the pothole analogy, and I hate to do it, they want to know when that pothole is going to be filled. It doesn't matter if it's tomorrow, but as long as they know when, and when it's been done, they need a little sort of note saying it's been done. But you guys, I'm sure, will take that on board. I've added another bullet point on there, and that really is, I want to see Staffordshire connected with the world. We've got exciting times. We've just been awarded the contract, or awarded the contract for superfast broadband for Staffordshire. 97% of premises is having access to 25 megabits plus. We put £7.5 million in. Broadband UK put £7.5 million in. BT put the rest in. So we're going to end up with an extra £97 million worth of investment within Staffordshire. And the big figures, but these things, if you look forwards and look at the horizon rather than looking at your feet, you can take these things forwards. And that's the way we think. We don't think small, we think big, we think innovative, we think about residents. Again, moving on, this is not about tarmac, this is about infrastructure, place you live, where you live. We've got country parks, I've mentioned, Cannock Chase, Roaches, Chase Water, all of that. I won't go through that. It's a great place. £1 billion worth of tourism into Staffordshire. I'm the attractive one on the left. The girl on the right, and she's a lovely girl from Stafford. She's the junior wakeboard champion for whatever they do in wakeboarding. We don't do much farming, wakeboarding and farming. We do strap people's feet to planks, but that's normally when you're sort of breaking the fields down. So anyway, that's an example of what we've done. We've spent £7.5 million on the dam at Chase Water, which is part of the country parks that's moving into Staffordshire in the spring from Lichfield District Council. We spent £7.5 million redoing the dam that was classed as being unsafe. There was a chance of 85 people dying. I don't know how they got the figure of exactly 85, but that's what they told us. It's up and running now. It's filled up after last year's rain. And this is a venture that's come on, and it's basically, if you see that above, there's a wire, and it pulls the whoever's wakeboarding around the course, and that's attracting tourism into the country. That's infrastructure plus. That's what we should be doing. We should be taking things, looking at them, looking outside the box and saying, we can do that. And it'll be really nice talking to you guys later. Thank you. And I don't know who we're passing on to now. James.
Good morning, everyone. I'm James Bailey. I just want to talk a little bit more now about the sort of service level outcomes and try and bring this alive a little bit more in terms of what it means for us in the room. Did it for me there. So that slide there shows the County Council strategic outcomes, and what I'm trying to illustrate there by that slide is that good quality infrastructure absolutely underpins and supports achievement of those outcomes. The reason I say that is because of the overwhelming evidence that good quality infrastructure, as we all know, functions better, promotes inward investment, creates places that are healthier, happier, prouder places to be, and consequently become more sustainable. Oh, that's happening automatically. Oh, fair play. Looking at those in a bit more detail then, those sorts of elements, the first bit I wanted to talk about was around safe and functional. They're so closely related that it just makes sense to think about them together. And the sorts of things that really contribute to that, essentially the first one is about having well-maintained infrastructure, which hopefully will make a lot of bells with the people in this room. Historically, infrastructure maintenance budgets within local authorities, particularly highway budgets, have been an easy target. It's the sort of thing that, you know, there's big numbers involved, but quite often the implication of those cuts takes some time to actually materialise. So it can be quite politically an easy thing to do, to take some money out of infrastructure maintenance. But we all know that that's a sort of short-term false economy. In the long run, that's just only going to lead to defects in your infrastructure, certainly potholes, which is the common one when we're talking about highways. That in itself then leads on to, you know, sort of public dissatisfaction, increased public demand, which we have to cope with. Leads to sort of ineffective, poor value repair work, and consequently even more disruption then on our network, which isn't good for our communities, it isn't good for its quality of life, it isn't good for our local businesses and the economy. This council is very different to that sort of normal approach. Since 2009, the Staffordshire County Council has invested an extra £50 million into its capital highway maintenance budget, enabling whole life cost approach, so really doing the right things based upon the evidence, which is about, say, that whole life cost, to use preventative maintenance techniques, etc., to avoid those difficult, daft situations from occurring. A sort of very responsible approach. So, and at the same time as doing the responsible things to preserve and protect the network, also making a measured progress about renewing some of that that's already life expired. Through Infrastructure Plus, the challenge is, because of the financial difficulties we've got, it's about really finding the innovation and the ways and methods to sustain that progress, not lose it, not let the financial circumstances close in upon us so that we end up with a situation going back to that reactive way of working, which isn't good in the long run. Other things that sort of contribute to good, safe and functional infrastructure then as well about the activities of other people, other organisations. So statutory undertakers is an obvious example of that, about being able to manage their activities well, coordinate the sorts of things that we do and they do together, so we minimise the sort of impact on our quality of our infrastructure and also the disruption that causes to communities when we're repairing it. And of course it's an all year round thing. Staffordshire's a massive county, and the winter normally affects some parts in the remote moorlands for about 6 months of the year, so things like our highway winter service operations, a huge operation, costs routinely more than £3 million a year to do, and it's absolutely vital to a lot of those remote rural communities, particularly up in the moorlands. So those sorts of things all really absolutely vital to achieving good, safe, functional infrastructure. And as Mark's already mentioned, County Council is very proud of having officially the safest county council road network in the country, and has had now for 3 years. A lot of that is around managing and maintaining our infrastructure, in this case the highways element of it, responsibly and very well. And obviously, of course, the other side of that then is around sensible, evidence-based, targeted road safety resources, whether they be education, whether they be training, engineering and enforcement activities. Okay, moving on. So that's all the stuff that we're normally quite used to do. We're always trying to do that to our best abilities, and there's nothing new in there. But Ian mentioned, and I think Alan and Mark have done as well, around it's more than that. We're more about the attractive places as well, and that's what we really want to achieve in Staffordshire. So one of the sort of brave steps that the County Council took last year was it promoted and published a strategy called Building a Beautiful Staffordshire, which sounds a bit fluffy, but when you get into the detail, it's really about taking a very responsible approach to the way that we spend our money on infrastructure. So I'm going to focus on the highway side again, which is just easy to do. In the future, or from now actually, as we design and maintain all our infrastructure, we take a very positive, insightful approach, working with local communities to understand what the real function of that infrastructure is. Is it a bypass that's about movement of traffic and the free movement of traffic to support the economy? Or actually is the economic value more in the fact that it's a town centre setting or a rural village and it's where people come together to socialise and integrate together? The second element of that strategy is around promoting our gateways. Mark put a slide up there that showed a number of the great gateways of Staffordshire, whether it's the rural tourism offer, the cultural offer, whether it's some of the national infrastructure we've got like the FA Centre at Burton or the National Memorial Arboretum in Lichfield. And but also it's around our county boundaries as people come in into the county or through railway stations, etc., so that we're leaving that real sort of welcoming first impression on visitors and attracting inward investment. The next one then is around if we've got good quality infrastructure that supports good quality places to live and visit and work in, and we've got those sort of attractive places that support all those outcomes. The next bit is that with that will come more and more inward investment. So we need to be able to be sort of recognised by developers as best in class for supporting development and growth. And by that we mean really about making sure that in a two-tier area like Staffordshire, that the planning process done by local planning authorities, the boroughs and district councils, that we work in really close partnership with them as a transport authority to make sure that our land and transport planning is really integrated and joined up. And that itself then informs the support of good pre-planning applications from developers so that we can give them a really efficient and great expertise in terms of ensuring that their planning proposals are sensible, that they're efficient, that they've got their value engineering included right the way throughout them to make sure that they're economically viable, and then supporting them right the way through with successful construction partners to make sure those works and schemes get delivered on the ground as quickly, cost effectively as possible. But it isn't just about sort of rolling the red carpet out in that way, although we have got some really great examples of that. It's also about mitigating some of the consequences of that as well on such a diverse county like Staffordshire. And if we do that really well and do it very proactively, working with local communities to facilitate things like neighbourhood planning and giving them control of things, that controlling their destiny and their sort of local environment, that when those development opportunities come along, rather than seeing them as something big and scary that they don't want, actually it could be an opportunity to help address some of their local concerns already. So we can sort of pull those two things together, and that is another element of rolling out the red carpet for development in a real proactive, planned way that supports the communities and supports our outcomes. So the last slide I'm just going to talk about now is the sustainable communities side, and it's really about understanding what I mean by that. It's very much about promoting sort of independent and pride communities. So the neighbourhood planning example that I've just give hopefully is quite a good example of that. Other things are about really engaging with our customers and residents in the way of gaining that insight that Ellen talked about in the commissioning cycle, to understand what our service levels are for infrastructure, understanding what our progress and our challenges are, and really giving that performance feedback about how we're progressing, what our challenges and choices are. The County Council's, this is so important. This is probably one of the biggest projects the County Council has done for a number of years, and to sort of put that into context, the Staffordshire will be investing something between 500 million and perhaps £1 billion into this contract, which is a huge amount of money over its life, and potentially that could increase to up to say 3 billion if based upon other partners coming on board and maybe the private developer work that comes on the back of that as well. So it's just absolutely vital that we get this right. It's a huge amount of money, but it probably isn't enough money to achieve everything in the normal way, the traditional way that we go about stuff. So we really need that innovation and that insightful capability to achieve more for it. And finally, just really an exciting opportunity. I hope you'll agree that it's really quite optimistic and vibrant to hear all the people talk around the sort of challenges, but also the excitement. So I hope you get that sense of optimism around whilst you're in Staffordshire as well. I'm certainly excited to be part of something that I hope is going to be new and bold, and perhaps the next chapter in public-private partnership working for infrastructure management. Thank you.
Right, well that's quite an ambition, isn't it? I hope it has excited you and you are feeling the same way that we do about all of that we do in relation to Infrastructure Plus. And hopefully you'll agree that submitting some prices for filling potholes and laying blacktop on your way out at the end of the day won't achieve any of that. We've got to do quite a bit more than that. I was just thinking as we were going through it, the title of that slide there, partnership, I think if you probably counted the words in all of those presentations, that would be the one that came out the most. And that's because, you know, we accept how important it is to us. As an organisation, we are not arrogant enough to believe that we can do all this on our own. And we want what is best out there in the market to help us do that. And we want the best kind of partnership approach. We don't know what we're going to be doing in 5 years' time. We don't exactly know what the economy's like. But what we want is a partnership that helps us deliver all of the outcomes that you've heard about before. And this is the process that we've got to go through to get that partnership arrangement in place. The right kind of partner, with each party to the partnership doing the right things and playing to their strengths. We are not a weak organisation at the moment. Hopefully you've got that picture. You know, we don't need telling what to do in terms of the basics, but as I've said, we accept that there are lots that the market can offer us in helping us to do that. And that is what this is all about. It's about getting that right. I mean, from a construction industry point of view, most of us will have been there where we spent a good proportion of our time arguing with each other. That never fulfilled any outcomes for anybody. Contractual arguments, they're all a waste of time. So we want a true partnership where we are all geared together towards delivering those outcomes. If we do that and we get that successful, we will create an environment for growth. It will naturally come. That will be part of the things we do, and it will happen. That's about, you know, having a good network, about the right approach to employees and subcontractors, small to medium enterprises within the county. All of those kinds of things can have an impact, and a significant impact, on the success of the county in terms of economic terms. But the bottom point there is, you know, we're in a real world. We have got economic pressures, but we won't be negative about it. Ian said previously, that isn't the way we approach things. We don't just cut stuff. We find a better way to do it. We find the right things, and this council will make the important decisions to do the right things as well, as long as it's confident they are the right things. You'll have seen some of these things in the documentation anyway, but they're kind of worth repeating. Sometimes we could be accused of wanting everything all of the time and not prioritising. So the point about this is, you know, we're trying to be clear. We do want everything, don't get me wrong, but we have to have a focus on those things that are important to us. So I'll go through them there. So maintain and improve the condition and usability of our physical assets. That's quite wide. There's a lot of work in understanding what is that about. You know, but there's lots of physical assets out there. They are very, very important to the public, and we need to maintain them and take the opportunity to improve them where possible. We're doing quite well recently out of the pinch point funding, you know, so that's examples of where we will be investing, and we'll be investing some of the county council money as well as government money in terms of growth in, you know, where it's important to us for growth of businesses. We also want to reduce the cost of delivering the services and reach the lowest whole life cost of asset ownership. I think that's particularly topical in the last 12 months we've had. Everywhere, anybody who's maintaining infrastructure, but even buildings as well, with the weather that we've had over the last 12 months, it has increased the cost. That's about how resilient are your assets, and we want to take a long-term view on that. We don't want a network that's just a patchwork quilt of the best pothole fixing you can possibly have, and cheap and cheerful fixes. We want a long-term view of that, and that's part of the reason for the potential duration of the contract and what we want to talk about, because we're up for having a long-term arrangement if we can be confident that it will give us the benefits in the future. As we've heard about before, it's important to involve communities in the decisions and delivery of infrastructure, but not just for the sake of it, because it's important. As James was talking about, basically what we can do is we can reduce the burden on us, because the communities will take a better holistic approach to it. And as was mentioned earlier in terms of the number of volunteers, actually when they see the benefits of it, the communities, people in the communities are prepared to invest their own time if it's the right thing to do. So that's excellent, and it's a definite advantage to us when considering the financial pressures. And customer satisfaction in the county council, we want to make sure people are satisfied in the county council, with the county council, and to enhance its reputation. But again, not just for the sake of it, because we're doing the right things. Because we're doing the right things, the reputation comes up. We're not interested in just buying people's happiness. It's got to be genuine because we're doing the right sort of thing. So we turn that round into what we're trying to follow through all the way through the evaluation process, really, is some critical success factors. Again, we've said before, the top one, it's about economic prosperity for the county, and that comes from jobs and growth, so we want to support that and promote that wherever possible. We want to be customer focused and improve the reputation of the county council. The services have got to be financially resilient, though, and that's just not cheap. That means over the long term, they've got to be financially resilient. We've got to do the right thing. We don't want any kind of boom and bust or anything like that. We want to take a long-term view of things, and that's quite challenging, actually. And then the last thing, really, is to meet the top three, we've got to have an approach where we use innovation, we are innovative, and we develop over time. We don't want rigid mechanisms that's all about what is the contract in place, what does that tell us we've got to do. We want to be able to move with the times. So, what do we bring to the partnership? Okay, and that's not we as in Staffordshire County Council, that's we together collectively, because this applies in terms of everybody that we're looking for. So, whoever we work with, we will need to have a commitment to be in a commissioning council of excellence. The whole approach. Hopefully you got from Helen's presentation, you can't separate that out. You can't do commissioning and then, there's a bit of delivery. It doesn't work like that. People doing work on the ground interact with customers as much as anybody else from the county council. Some of the sources of insight come just as much from actually doing the work. Knowing what the right priorities, where to spend the money from, comes from a joint approach into where to invest. All of those things are important, and one of the things we have got to work through is a governance arrangement that allows us to properly have a good commissioning approach. It's not the kind of old-fashioned client-contractor. It's got to be more integrated than that. We've got to have a sensible way of working out the priorities, where the benefits are, and present sensible cases for where we invest our money and how we spend it. Senior internal buy-in from members and officers. I mean, members doesn't apply so much to the private sector, but you've got shareholders. That's the equivalent of members, if you like. And, we want an organisation that's committed to Staffordshire right the way to the top, to achieve those things to the top. Not just to make money. It's not just another contract. It's got to be more than that. We express that in terms of size. The size has got to be right. We don't want to be a tiny little fish in a massive great company. We want to be important enough that it matters to you what is actually being delivered in Staffordshire. because it's got to be that way. Otherwise, we won't. And equally, we can't have an organisation that's too small so that the county council dominates the way that company does business. There's got to be a right balance. I'm sure you'll understand that. And a good track record of managing major change, delivering things differently, that's what we're interested in. We're interested in innovations. Some of the PQQ questions look towards that. That's what we're interested in. Show us how you can do things differently and show us what those advantages are. We know some of the things that we need to do differently over the next 1, 2, 3 years, but we don't know. As I say, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, who knows? But we want a company to work with that understands that and can show us that we can do that. And also, we've got partnership successes. We've told you about those. We want to know that you can do it as well, because it is vitally important to us. So the procurement timeline then. As you'll be aware, obviously, the PQQ went out, the OG went out on the 8th of July, and we're asking for submissions for the PQQ on the 8th of August, and then we'll review those, have a look at that. The idea for us then is to select down to about 5 bidders to take through to competitive dialogue, and we'll have basically 2 stages of that, and outline solutions through September and October, and then we'll be looking to reduce down to about 3. Realistically, 2 or 3 to take through to detailed solutions with a submission just before Christmas, and then we'll be doing our decision-making process kind of January, and then to award a contract in March, and then we're looking for a 6 months mobilisation period really. So although we'll be awarding the contract, we'll be looking to actually start work on the ground in September, October time. The reason for that is we don't know exactly what the change is, what this is looking like. It could result in changes to the county council's organisation, TUPE transfers, potentially, and all that takes a little bit of time. So we're not going to rush that bit necessarily. And that's it really. That's the overall outline of the timescale. There's a few people around here today. There's some procurement specialists. We've got the opportunities through the panel sessions to have some more discussions around that. So if you want any more detail about that now or later through the day, that's okay. We can do that. I'm a little bit conscious of time. Because we're getting up towards the break, but I'm going to be amused now at the response to this question, because I'm expecting everybody to put their hands up and go, I've got a really good idea to save you a load of money, I'd like to share it with everybody, please. So who's going first? If there are any burning questions, I'm happy to have them now, but the plan is basically from now for us to have a coffee break here. The first panel sessions people will take you over to Staffordshire Place, and we'll start those, and then we'll have lunch afterwards. But we've got around about 20 officers sat in the room who are going to be around and available to have conversations basically from now up until the end of the lunch period. So what I would suggest is those people who aren't in panel sessions take the opportunity to speak to those guys. And find out, whatever you want, ask whatever questions you might have. Just get as much knowledge out of them as you can, if you like. But has anybody got any specific burning questions they would like to ask? No, brilliant. That's £5 you owe me. No. Okay then. So if we go out and have a coffee now, we'll sort out the first panel session people, and then we'll kind of. I'll see you later on in the day over lunch and through the panel sessions. Thanks a lot for your time.